Let's go back to 1939. Let's pick up the film right here at Mandalay. Joan Fontaine in the motion picture Rebecca. Here it comes.
Good evening, Mr. De Winter.
What the devil do you think you're doing?
But it's the picture, the one in the gallery. What is it? What have I done?
Go and take it off. Doesn't matter what you put on, anything will do. What are you standing there for? Didn't you hear what I said?
Sir George and Lady Moore, Lieutenant, Admiral and Lady Burbank.
Now here is Joan Fontaine. And you said when you came out, what a terrible thing I did by showing that clip of... What do you think when you see yourself in that picture, 21...
Well, I never go if I can help it, but occasionally people sneak something over on me like this one. It's very painful. First of all, you feel your own daughter, in a sense, watching yourself. And I remember I had to see the Constant Nymph at the Museum of Modern Art once. I'm in a museum already. And it was, I kept trying to say, don't do it, don't get off that screen, go home, have babies, live in the country, go on a farm, don't do it.
But what a tremendous part of your life that picture was, huh?
Oh, it was a marvelous thing I was 21 when I got it. And to have somebody back you up like David Selznick and have a studio behind you, to have the whole studio mechanism, as it were, which gives you a firm footing in that old stardom bracket. Whereas I think it's awfully hard for young people today who are starting out because there's no continuity to their careers. They haven't got a producer and a impresario.
Right, who plans, now you'll do this,
Exactly.
now you'll do this, now you'll do that, right up the line. And probably Laurence Olivier was thrilled to have you in that picture.
No, he wasn't. He wanted Vivian Leigh.
You're kidding.
Oh, no. Indeed, he did and said so. And Hitchcock used to say, come on, kid, I'm rooting for you, but you're on your best behavior. You may get replaced. It was an awful feeling. But I think it helped me.
Was there ever a time during the picture where you're continuing, it was really in doubt that Olivier wanted you off and Vivian Leigh in?
Yes, the first week or two. Mm-hmm.
Would he tell you that?
Well, not exactly, but, you know, as I say in my book, No Bed of Roses, the English stick together. I'm English, too, by the way, but they're a very close corporation, and Vivian and Darry were part of the English colony, and, of course, they wanted their Viv to be in it, and then I worked with all those English people many times, Gladys Cooper and all those other people, and either you are or you aren't, and that was it.
When this picture was made, Hitchcock's reputation wasn't the reputation that the man enjoys today.
He just started.
That's correct. What was he like then, working for him as a director when he was just beginning in this country, really?
Well, he was darling. I adore Hitchcock. He, I think, felt a little bit not quite the same as the rest of the actors in a social strata, but he's a knight now.
Yeah.
It's Sir Alfred. Isn't that lovely? I'm thrilled for him.
But in the years intervening, he said, all actors are cattle. Did he treat you like cattle?
Nah, that was just
That's all
fun.
part of his, yeah.
Yes.
When you talk about the days of the studios and people like Selznick, who planned your careers, how much did they rule by fear? That you better do this or else?
Not only by fear, but command, as you just said. You would get these enormous telegrams if you didn't do what they wanted you to do, of total revilement. And you are ungrateful, and where would you be if it weren't for me, and you don't know how fortunate you are. And very often they would put things in the press which was very disturbing, because you would read that you were out at a nightclub when your husband was doing something else, and all this which wasn't true. But
No,
it
wait,
would be there.
who would put that in the columns?
Well, the studios. Let me
Yeah.
just say the studios, maybe the press departments of the studios, but that was a way of disciplining you, a way of holding you in order and check, as it were. Luella Parsons used to be quite a medium for some of the studios who would plant things through her columns to make the actors, directors, writers, whatever it happened to be, toe the mark.
What about, as long as you bring it up, because I was going to get to Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper and those powerful women who wrote about the Hollywood stars and your dealings with them. Well, you write about them in No Bed of
What
Roses.
was so interesting to me was the payola, as it were, the Christmas presents. And I think I say in my book that I went to visit Hedda Hopper one day, and she had great big jars, bottles of Chanel No. 5 and whatever the perfumes were. And I said, good heavens. She said, oh, the studio send me these all the time. I just mix them together and have my own. Literally.
And would
Luella?
Luella get presents too?
Well, the one that I love, I don't know if it's true or not, but it had gone around Hollywood, so I published it, was that at Christmas, she would go to a Christmas party and the driver, and they would load the station wagon up with all kinds of presents. And when I say presents, I mean alligator suitcases.
Are you kidding
me? Furs, linen, silver, champagne, everything you can possibly imagine. So this one time, she came out after the party, and her station wagon was absolutely robbed. So she went home, and the day after Christmas, her secretary let all the studios know that the station wagon was coming back again. And please fill it up. Yes,
You
indeed.
have got to be kidding.
Isn't that marvelous?
You know, that still goes on with critics. I know for a fact that there are some critics in this country, and I can't tell it now, but when I do my book 50 years from now, God willing, I can say their names. Some of the most pompous critics in this country are supplied video cassettes of the television shows by the stations sent to their home. Most of the schleppers, they get hauled into the studio, but the high mucky mucks, the cassettes are sent right at home so they don't have to leave home ever, So I often wonder about these Simon Pure critics, whether they be named Luella Parsons or somebody else.
Well, I've been out with a lot of critics who first nights, and I do know that sometimes they're cross at the taxi driver or something else, and it comes out on the play in their review, whatever their mood happens to be, or whether they were badly served at Sardi's or wherever we've been.
They all want to know why you don't get along with your sister.
It's very simple, and that is when I was born, I made that one mistake of getting born in the wrong family. I like my mother, but my sister resented me tremendously, so my mother told me, would not come near my crib. So I don't take it personally at all. I could have been a boy or a puppy or whatever it was. I intruded in her life. And I've talked to psychiatrists about that, and they say that it's not unusual at all, that this often happens with the eldest in the family, and since there are only two, she's just the elder, and that made it even more difficult.
Do you enjoy saying that?
What?
That she's the elder?
Not particularly.
Okay.
No, she's not much older than I am. She's only 15 months older. Doesn't make any difference. I like getting old anyhow.
Okay.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Oh, sure. But anyway, so the fact that I became an actress, too, didn't probably help much. But still, that's what it is. And at our ages now, there is no hope for her to change her attitude at all. So I'm used to it.
I'm going to pursue this a little bit, Joan.
Yes.
And if you want me to stop, you'll tell me to
Don't
stop.
care.
I mean, would you want to go to your graves not speaking to each other and not getting along?
Well, we never have. Why should we start now? Why change things? You forget what the original source of the disagreement was very often. With a lot of people, it just doesn't have to be sisters or siblings. It can be husband and wife, for that matter. How many novels have you read where the husband and wife never spoke to each other at dinner table and the poor kids had to sit around? You know that.
Like small talk, huh? Now, what about, you just said that you enjoy growing older.
I just love it. It's marvelous.
When did you start?
You don't believe me?
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
I can see in your eyes that you do.
It's so marvelous. You've got everything to yourself. It's a very selfish attitude. But we've had the children and the marriages and the whole thing, and now I've got my life to myself to lead as I want to, without having to consult anybody or take care of anybody else or be responsible to anybody else. I make my own mistakes. Nobody can blame me. Except myself. And that's kind of nice.
How did you like doing Eleanor in
Oh,
Lion
I
and Winter.
love that woman. She's a fiery, crusty old dame.
Independent lady like
Oh,
you. Yeah.
boy, and a warrior, and I'm a fighter, too, so it was just grand. Very funny. I was interviewed the other day for a part, and somebody said, how could you play Eleanor of Aquitaine, because you have always played those little English girls? Well, that's kind of an insult. An actor is an actor. After all, you should be able to play a wide range
If you're an
of
actor,
characters.
yeah.
Yes, and I think I have enough Irish in me to
You were being
use graphic.
interviewed for a part? They interview you for a part?
Well, yes, but that was through a friend wanted me to go and sit down and talk about something, but I couldn't do it anyway.
Do you work that much anymore? Do you want to work that much anymore, or do you have other
I worked
projects?
9 months last year. That's an awful lot. And I'd like to do a play a year and something else. But I like to be independent. I like to be financially independent. I naturally have an income from all these years, but I don't like to spend that. I like to make myself go out and say, Joan, you're going to earn that money. If you want to do this, you want that, you want a trip, you want to play golf, you want to do that, go ahead and earn it. Don't touch your capital. So I do. And it's a wonderful impetus.
I'm told you don't like to talk about politics.
I had my passport taken away from me, Tom, and that was I'm a naturalized citizen, I'm English by birth. And when that happened, thank God I knew some people in Washington, so I did get it back. But I often have thought what somebody who didn't have any connections might do. It would be a terrible thing. And I resolved then, I'm very political, and I have very strong opinions, but I'm not going to voice them because I saw what could happen. And another thing, in the days when there was the studio system,
Oh,
if
you didn't
were
dare.
a Republican or you were a Democrat, the head of the studio was one or the other, but probably not what you were. Therefore, you automatically had his disfavor. And it was a bad thing to do, to take a political side. I don't mean from a standpoint of cowardice. I will speak out if I have to. But I just think it is not smart to be too public about your political opinion.
I'm still hazy on why your passport was lifted. Was it something you said?
I belong to, as many of us did, thousands of us did, what we called HICAS, Hollywood Association for Arts, Sciences, and Professions, which was headed by Mrs. Roosevelt and Joe Davidson, the sculptor. For some reason, that was suspect eventually. And a friend with the FBI came to me and said, get out of it. So I did. I'd only gone to 4 meetings. But, my dear, it was something like 8 years later that they took the passport away. 6 or 8 years. I mean, that is incredible.
Yet you were friendly with Adlai Stevenson, weren't you, a politician?
Yes.
Did you like him?
I wish we had more like him. I wish we had somebody today with his integrity and his ability to speak and his sense of the tact and diplomacy. And he was a
I can't
very
recall now
superior
because
man.
I was really too young to know that much about political campaigns when he was running for president in the 50s. But were you a supporter of his? Did you declare for him or anything? Or you never?
I didn't declare for anybody, ever. I just learned not to.
Both on the screen and off. Now, like when your marriages ended, did you get alimony?
Never.
Why not?
Never asked for it. I don't think I would have had a chance in the first place. Being a woman earning my own money, what judge is going to give me any alimony? I'm probably earning sometimes more than my husband's were, so there was no way. Nor for child support. You couldn't, I'm sure, get that. I think there was some nominal school thing, but that's
How
about
do you
it.
feel about the concept of alimony is what I really want to ask you.
Well, I think if a woman has had children by a man, and they must have the woman at home, the mother should stay at home and look after those children. Yes, indeed, she should be taken care of, and she shouldn't be abandoned when the children are grown up. She must have some money to support herself for the rest of her life. It's too late to go out and find a job at 50 or whenever the children have gone, 40 perhaps. Absolutely necessary. But if a woman is self-supporting and does not have children, there is no reason why she should ever have any alimony at all. Hello, girls, but I really don't feel that it's fair.
How about this new trend now where they want the alimony even though they aren't married?
If the woman is staying home and being the housekeeper and putting your suits out and arranging your dinner parties and writing your thank you notes and doing all that, yes, she has a job. She should be paid for a job.
What do you think of the whole concept of morality in this country today? Things that are going on? I mean, we're both of a different time, and I sometimes wonder if this
I'm a
country
little
isn't going...
differenter than you.
Yeah, well, yes.
Well, I think it's much more sensible. You know, my mother was very Victorian, so one got terribly knotted up as a young girl. You were not allowed to hold anybody's hand even. So by the time you are married as a woman in my day and have no experience, it's a terrible shock to you. And how can one adjust? A man has probably had experience in that field, but not a woman. And I should think the whole violence of it, as a matter of fact, would be terrible for a woman.
And
The wedding night in a Victorian age when the girl didn't even know what was going to go on, had no idea, wasn't even told.
let alone what's going to come off.
Well, you know what Roosevelt's father said on his wedding eve? Franklin Roosevelt, his father took him to study after dinner, and he said, "Young man, now you're going to be married tomorrow, and there's a subject which even fathers don't discuss with their sons," and didn't.
So you think it's a little more honest today?
Oh, sure.
What was morality like in the Hollywood that you were a part of back
Well, it
then?
was supposed to have been wild, but I never saw it. I think the wildest thing I ever saw was a few people diving into his pool with all their clothes on, but none of that. And, of course, I didn't even see the drug scene, any of that ever.
No casting couches?
There certainly were casting couches, and you had to be fleet of foot, too. Indeed, you do. I'm rather amused that the casting couch in Hollywood today is not supposed to be a lure for the girls. It's the other way around.
You are a devil. So now what are you doing for the next couple of months?
For the next couple of months, I am doing a soap. I've never done one in my life.
Afternoon drama.
Yep, I'm doing Ryan's Hope, and I learned when I was in Vienna that you have to keep active in various spheres. So I do dinner theater and I do TV and various things. So I thought, well, let's have a look at this soap audience for a while and see what that's like.
Mm-hmm. You'll have fun with that.
I quite possibly will.
And what's neat is that you don't think it's beneath you or you don't want to do it. Or I mean, you want to do that.
I want to do it, and I lecture a great deal, and I meet a great deal of other kinds of women that I had not met before. And one lovely thing about lecturing is that for years, behind the camera, you never met anybody. You only met the Hollywood people that were involved in that. You never met the public, as it were. But now, to be able to go, and I find that so many women have had the same problems I have, it's like, I'm going to make a funny joke. It's like meeting a whole lot of sisters. Only these talk to me.